So I see I got 3x plus 2 plus 3x minus 6. First, I'm going to factor that 3 out that's in front. When I do, I'm going to have the 3 in front. That's going to leave me x to the second power. And that's going to be adding to x by itself, because I'll factor out the 3. And then I'm going to be subtracting 2, because 3 times negative 2 gives me negative 6. Now I need two numbers that will equal negative 2. When I do this, I know that I'm going to have, well, 1 times 2 are the only things that give me a 2. Unless I need a positive 1, I'm going to make this a negative 1 and a positive 2. So when I factor this, I'm going to have 3 times x minus 1 times x plus 2. Let's see how I did. 3 x minus 1, x plus 2. All right, let's get to number 3. Number 3 shows that I've got 4k2 plus 28. Well, I'm sorry, there's a p over here. You can see that. And then a kp and plus 48p. When I do this, I realize I'm going to have to factor out the 4. 4 will go into every one of these numbers. So when I factor out, I'm also going to factor out the p that's in front of every one of these as well. That's going to leave me, let's see, with k to the second power. Let's see, 28 divided by 4 will be 7k. And then 48 divided by 4 will give me 12. So that'll be plus 12. Now I got to come up with two numbers that when multiplied together will give me 12. And I'm going to erase some of this here. Hold on. Give me some room to work. So I need a positive 12. Two numbers to give me positive 12 will give me 1 and 12, but that won't make 7. I could also get 3 and 4, and 3 plus 4 does equal 7. So that tells me everything I need to know. I'm going to have 4 times p in front, and then I'm going to have k, let's see, plus 3, and I'm going to have k plus 4. And that's going to go ahead and probably do it for me. 4p, k plus 3, k plus 4. All right, let's go on to number 5. Number 5 says I'm going to factor out, well, you see I've got 7 b to the second power, c to the fifth power, minus 63 b to the c to the third power, wow. And then we got plus 140 c to the second power. Okay, I see that I can factor out a number here, and that's 7 from everything, right? And I can also factor out c to the, looks like the second power over here. So I'm going to take 7 times c to the second power, factor it out. That's going to leave me b to the second power, c to the third power. This is a negative 63 from what I see. So negative 63 divided by 7 is negative 9 b times c, because I'm taking away c to the second power. And then 140 divided by 7, that's going to give me 20. And there's no c. And I can't factor this out because of the c to the third power here. I'm afraid this is going to be my final answer. You see right here, by this being to the third power, there's no way I can go ahead and FOIL the c from way around to get these numbers here. I'd have to leave it just like this. I'm hoping that I'm going to have this right. Let's check it here. Look at that. C, a 7c to the second power, b to the second power, c to the third power, minus 9bc plus 20, just like I said. All right, we're going to go and start number 7 here. I'm going to go ahead and erase all this ink, and we're going to start right here. Now I'm going to do these the way I showed you in class that I like doing them. If I've got 3h to the second power, and I'm adding 11h plus 6. When I do this, I realize I got 3 times 6, and 3 times 6 is 18. I'm looking for numbers that will equal 18. All right, I know 1 times 18 will work, but that's not going to give me 11. I know 2 times 9 will work. And 9 plus 2 does give me 11. So those are the numbers I'm going to work with here. So now I have to remember I'm going to divide these numbers. Remember, I'm picking these numbers because they equal 18. We got 18 from multiplying 3 times 6. Now I've got to take these numbers and divide them by my coefficient 3. When I do this, I got 2 over 3, so that means that one of these factors is going to be, let's see, positive 2. That numerator becomes my constant, and my denominator becomes my coefficient, 3h. And my next one's going to be 9 over 3. Well, 9 divided by 3 equals 3. And 3 can be written as 3 over 1. So 3 is going to be my coefficient. And 1 is going to be my, 3 is going to be my constant. And 1 is going to be my coefficient to h. Let's try this out. 2 times, or 3h times h will give me 3h to the second power. 2 times 3 will give me 6. Then I got 3h times 3, that's 9h. And then I got 2 times h, that's going to give me plus 2h. And 2h plus 9h equals 11h. So this is going to work perfectly right here. 3h plus 2, h plus 3. 3h plus 2, h plus 3. All right, we're off to number 9. When I work number 9, it says I've got 6x squared minus 5x plus 1. All right, I'm going to take 6 times 1. That gives me 6. Looking for 2 numbers that will give me a positive 6, but will give me a negative 5. The only way to do that is to have 2 negative numbers that are going to multiply together to give me that 6. All right, so I'm going to take, 1 times 6. Remember, you might think 6 minus 1 is 5, but if I made this a negative 6 in order to make this negative 6 minus 1, which would equal that, that would give me a positive or a negative 6 up here, not a positive one. So I'm going to have to use 2 and 3, and then I'll make them both negative, because a negative times a negative gives me a positive 6, but when I add these 2 negatives, I'll get a negative 5. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide both of these by 6, that coefficient that's in front. When I do this, I can reduce this one to negative 1 over 3, and I can reduce this fraction to negative 1 over 2. And now I can make my 2 terms again. Well, remember, the negative 1, the numerator, is going to become my constant. That denominator becomes my coefficient. And over here, again, the numerator becomes my constant, and the denominator becomes my coefficient. So I should have 3x minus 1, 2x minus 1. Let's see how I did. 2x minus 1, 3x minus 1. Perfect. All right, guys, let's get to number 11. Number 11 says I'm going to have 3n, the second power, plus 5n, and a minus 2. When I do this, I'm looking for 3 times negative 2, which will give me negative 6. 2 numbers that will give me negative 6. Well, I know 1 times 6 will give me 6, right? And because this has to be a negative 6, one of them has to be positive, one has to be negative. I can make this a negative 1, positive 6, and 6 minus 1 does equal 5. So now I'm going to divide both of these by the coefficient, which is 3. that first term's coefficient. And now this is already all it can be. That -1 becomes the constant. That 3 becomes the coefficient. But 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So that would be 2 over 1. And that's going to give me 2 as my constant and 1 as my coefficient. So now I should have 3n minus 1 n plus 2. Let's see how I did. 3n minus 1 and n plus 2, just like we said. All right, let's go ahead and get number 13 going. I'm going to clear the board to give me some more room to work. All right, let's get on with this one. We've got 8n, or excuse me, 8g to the second power, minus 10g, minus 12. First of all, I can see that I can factor out a 2 from all this. So I'm going to do that. That's going to give me 4g to the second power over here. It's going to be a negative 5g over here and a negative 6 over here, right? Because 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times negative 5, negative 10, 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Now I'm looking for 4 times negative 6. 4 times negative 6 is going to give me negative 24. I need two numbers that are going to equal negative 24. And so that I can think of 1 and 24. That's not going to work, though, because I realize that I have a negative 5 in between. I need the numbers a little closer. I could also take 2 times 12 to get negative 24, right? But that doesn't work because 12 minus 2 is not going to give me 5. I could also take 3 times 8. That does work because if I take a negative 8, negative 8 times positive 3 is negative 24, and negative 8 plus 3 gives me negative 5. Now I've got to remember to divide these by my leading coefficient. That's 4. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. So that'd be a negative 2 over 1. And 3 over 4 is just, that's as simple as it gets right there. So let's go ahead and pop these in. We got the 2 in front. Then in the first one, we got 3 as my constant. That'll be a positive 3. The 4 will be my coefficient, 4g. Then in the next one, I've got my constant is negative 2. And 1 is going to be my coefficient, so that's going to just be g. So I should have 2 times 4g plus 3 and g minus 2. I'm going to double check my work just to make sure I got it right. I know that 4g times g is 4g to the second power times 2 would be 8g to the second power. I know that 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. And now I take 4g times negative 2, that's negative 8. And then I've got 3, let's see, 3 times g, that's positive 3. And 8 minus 3 is going to give us that 5, right? And the negative 5 times 2 will give us the negative 10. We should have the right numbers here. 2 times g minus 2 and 4g plus 3. All right. Let's go on to number 15. You had all the even ones here. All right. The first one we see has a negative 3t plus 11t minus 6. So the one thing you might be thinking is you can't factor out any numbers or letters from this. And you wouldn't be wrong, but you can factor something out, that negative sign. I'm going to factor out the negative, and that's going to give me 3t, the second power, minus 11t. Remember, all the signs are going to become the opposite. And then plus 6. Now I'm going to take 3 times 6. That'll give me 18. So I'm looking for numbers. They're going to give me 18. Well, I know 1 times 18 will give me 18, but let's face it, I'm not going to get 11 from that. I could say 2 times 9 will give me 18, right? And that's true. A negative 2 times a negative 9 will give me a positive 18, and negative 9 plus negative 2 gives me negative 11. So those are my numbers right there. Now I'm going to divide everything by the 3 that's in front here. All right. Now I could say that the first one has to be, well, there's going to be the negative. The coefficient or the constant is going to be my numerator, which would be -2. The coefficient is going to be my denominator, which is 3. So that would be 3t. The second one, I know -9 divided by 3 can be reduced to -3/1. So my coefficient would be 1. That's going to be a t. And then that -3 will be my constant. All right, so I should have negative times 3t minus 2 times t minus 3. Let's see how I did. Negative t minus 3 and 3t minus 2. All right, let's go to number 17. Number 17, I've got that nasty negative sign in front again. I'm going to factor it out, and that's going to give me 4c to the second power plus 19c plus 5. All right, I know 4 times 5 is going to give me, well, I'm sorry, we have to make all these signs the opposite. What was I thinking? Almost fell for that. So the opposite of -4 will be +4. But as far as those others go, the positive 19c becomes the negative 19c, and the positive 5 becomes a -5. All right, now 4 times -5 is -20. I need 2 numbers that will come up to -20. So I can remember that 1 and 20, right, will work. Since it's a negative, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. And I can say that -20 plus 1 will give me -19. Well, now I got to divide both of these by 4 again. All right, so my first one is going to be negative. Then I'm going to have, well, my numerator will be my constant, which would be +1. My denominator will be my coefficient, which would be 4c. And then I'm going to multiply this to, well, -20 divided by 4 can be reduced to -5/1. So that numerator will be the constant, -5. The denominator will be my coefficient. So now I should have -4c plus 1, c minus 5. Let's see how I did. -c minus 5, 4c plus 1. All right, we're on number 19 now. All right, next we have the negative. It's going to get factored out, and I've got 15w. And I'm going to have to add plus w, and then minus 28. This is going to be a tough one because I've got to take 15 and multiply it to 28. And 28 times 15, that's going to give me a huge number. 8 times 5 is 40. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 makes 140. Then that's going to give me 28 with a 0 here. So I got 0. This would be a 2. Carry the 1. So we're looking at 420. Wow. I need 2 numbers that are going to give me 420. Right? And a -420 at that. So there are going to be 2 numbers that are subtracting each other. They'll be 1 away from each other. Wow. Okay. Well, we know it sure as heck isn't going to be 1 and 420 because they're not 1 away from each other. If we divide it by 10, we could say that we have 42 and 10. They're not 1 away from each other. I could divide this by, wow, I want to say by 3. Let's see here. If I divide this by 3, that's going to give me 14. That's going to give me 30. So that won't work either. Let's see here. I could also say this is 60 times 7, because I know 7 times 60, 7 times 6 is 42. I could divide this by 2. That would make this 30. and that would make this 14. That's still not by 1. I could divide this by 3. That would make this 20, right? 60 divided by 3 is 20. 7 times 3 is 21. Oh, look at that, one away from each other. And since this has to be a positive number, this would have to be the positive 21 and the negative 20. Wow. Let's double check that. 21 times 20 has to equal 420. Well, we got zeros on the top, then a 0 on the bottom, and then we've got 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and that's the 420 we're looking for. All right, awesome. So we got the right numbers. Let's go ahead and factor this out. We've got a negative in front. Remember, we have to divide both of these by 15 now. Wow. All right, so 21 over 15 can be reduced to, both of these can be divided by 3, so that would be a 7 over 5. All right, and 20 over 15, that can be reduced to negative 5 over, actually negative 4, yeah, divisible by 5, negative 4 over 3. So let me change that. Negative 4 over 3. All right, now I have all the numbers I need. Over here, remember, my top number is going to be my constant. The bottom number will be my coefficient. Over here, my top number will be my constant. My bottom number will be my coefficient. All right, and if I do that, I'll have a negative 5w plus 7 times 3w minus 4. Let's see how I did. Got negative 3w minus 4 and 5w plus 7. Right on the money. Let's get to number 25. I'm going to get me some room here to work. Let's see. Number 25 says I've got 5. Wow. Okay. This is 5x to the second power. That's going to be minus 5x minus 30. It's going to be equal to 0. I know I can factor out 5 from all this, and that's going to give me x to the second power minus x minus 6 equals 0. Well, now I need two numbers that will equal negative 6, because 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. These numbers have to be one away from each other, so I'm going to be using 2 and 3. And it has to equal negative, so I'm going to pick a negative 3, positive 2. There's no leading coefficient, so I can leave it like this. That's going to leave me 5. That's going to leave me x plus 2 and a x minus 3. Now I have to put everything to 0, right? So this is going to be x plus 2 equals 0. I'll subtract 2 from both sides. That's going to give me x minus 2. X equals negative 2. And over here, I'm going to put x minus 3 equals 0. And that's going to make me take 3 and add it to both sides. That's going to leave me with x is equal to 3. So my two roots are going to be negative 2 and 3. And there they are, negative 2 and 3. I got one left, and that's number 27 here. Let's erase this word, and let's focus on number 27. My last one is negative 12 n, let's see, minus 11n. Oh, sorry, that's 12n to the second power. Minus 11n equals negative 15. Well, we've seen this before. Not going to fall for it anymore. We're going to add 15 to both sides. This is going to give me a negative 12n, the second power, minus 11n, plus 15. That's going to be all equal to 0. Next, we're going to factor out that negative. That'll give us 12n, second power, minus 11, oh, sorry, these turn to the opposite, plus 11n, and then minus 15 equals to 0. Now we're going to have to go ahead and find what 12 times 15 is. Wow. So 12 times 15. Well, I know that's going to be 30 up there. And let's see, 15 over here. That's going to give me 180. So I need two numbers that will equal 180 that are going to be 11 apart. Well, the first ones I want to think of are going to be 18 and 10. That's not going to work because those are 8 apart. I can go ahead and divide 18 by 2. That'll give me 9. Then I'd have to multiply this side by 2. That'll give me 20. And 20 minus 9 does give me 11. So since this is a positive 11, my 20 will have to be positive. My 9 will have to be negative. Okay? And that will give me the negative 180, because 12 times negative 15 would be negative 180. Okay, so now that I know this, I have to divide both of these sides by 12. I know 9 over 12 can be reduced to negative 3 over 4. I know that 20 over 12 can be reduced to, both of these are divisible by 4, so this would be 5 over 3. And now I have everything I need. The negative is going to stay there, right? Then I've got, well, negative 3 would be my constant. That 4 would be my coefficient. 5 would be my constant. That 3 will be my coefficient. Now I put everything to 0. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve for my roots. I got 4n minus 3, so I'm going to have to, or equal 0, so I'm going to have to add 3 to both sides. And that's going to give me 4n equals 3, and I'll divide 4 away, and that'll give me n equals 3 over 4. But I'm not done here. I got my other one to do. Now I've got, let's see, 3n plus 5 equals 0. This is going to give me subtracting 5 for both sides. And that's going to give me 3n is equal to negative 5. And I'm going to have to divide by 3. And that means n is going to equal negative 5 over 3. Let's see how I did. Well, n is negative 5 over 3, or 3 over 4, just like I said. All right, I did all the odds from 1 to 28. You have the evens. So good luck, and I'll see you in class for grading.